Hello, Steelers Nation. Welcome to another episode of the Steel City Insider podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremy Ritz, alongside the publisher of Steel City Insider, Jim Wexell. And today we welcome Mike DeFabo back to the show. Ironically enough, and Mike and I were talking about this before we got on here, he was on last November before the Thursday night game against the Titans. So it must be a tradition every November, Mike, we got to have you on.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how that game went, whether this is going to be a good omen or a bad omen for the Steelers.
I think they won. Didn't they beat the Titans last year?
I think so. So maybe it is good news that no trap game coming up here for the Steelers in Cleveland.
What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Mike? Trap game stuff.
It was kind of funny today. Dante Jackson was asked by a reporter about the trap game, and he said, "What is that? Explain that to me." And they tried to explain to him, well, you just had this big physical, emotional win against the Ravens, now short week, a lesser opponent. And he's like, I don't believe in any of that. He's like, I played in Carolina. There's no such thing as a trap game when you're on the Carolina Panthers. So, I think that this game, in some ways, when I used to cover basketball, Purdue coach Matt Painter used to call these kind of games maturity games. And in testing the maturity of your team to respond, you could overlook a Browns team that's low in the division, struggling right now, having questions at quarterback. So can you treat every opponent the same? And you hear guys always talk about, we're not looking at any game in front of us. The game right in front of us is our most important game. That's our Super Bowl. This is really going to be one of those tests of, do their actions meet their words?
I love that maturity game. See, I was going around telling people today, Thursday night's all about grit. Whoever wants it is going to get it. Now, Cleveland could want it. They could muster it up. And we know why. And Pittsburgh might be, I asked Russell Wilson after the game, 24-hour rule is usually in effect. How many hours is it going to take? He goes, 2 hours. And then he went on, he said, I'm only taking 2 hours. Then he went on to say how happy he was and continued and how his teammates and this and that. I'm like, you're saying the right thing at first, but are you really going to do a 2-hour celebration? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think an equalizer in this one is it's supposed to be a weather game. They're predicting or projecting wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour, lots of rain. It's going to be a messy, grimy game. So to your point, Jim, it is going to be about grit. It is going to be about, this is another AFC North opponent. They're going to be playing a physical running style with Nick Chubb. And Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator, said today, this game often goes the way that Chubb goes. And so I feel like that's the critical matchup for the Steelers. It's still going to be an AFC North opponent. They're still going to come downhill, try to pound it at you. They still have that great guard tandem. What can you do to counteract that? And as much as last week was a test for the defense, playing Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, this is another test against a physical running team. And the Steelers have been kind of inconsistent over the last couple of years when it comes to stopping the run.
I'll tell you, 4.5 per carry they're allowing the last 5 games. So, the Browns are allowing 4.6. And Nick Chubb doesn't look all that good, does he?
Yeah, I mean, he had a very significant knee injury there, just last season. Steelers fans obviously remember it because it was Minkah Fitzpatrick who delivered the blow. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the fact that he's even back in this kind of a time frame is remarkable, but being back on the field and being the dominant Nick Chubb that we all know, those are two different things.
Yeah, you talk about the weather, and one last point, Jeremy, before you move on. Was it 2012 when they lost to Cleveland on Thursday night in really frigid conditions after a Baltimore game? Ben Roethlisberger didn't even go out to warm up. It was so cold. Players really didn't look like they wanted to play, and a really, really bad Cleveland team beat what was supposed to be a really, really good Pittsburgh team.
What?
So the weather might be a evening factor for the underdog in this case.
Was that the Unleash Hell year?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so.
Because that popped in. I can recall the Cleveland game where they were successful, they were struggling, but then that's a bad memory, that content.
Well, it could be. I mean, it was just hell watching that game.
Yes.
I think it was 2012.
They did unleash some hell, but we know that the Browns are coming up, the former Ravens, this Thursday. But let's backtrack to Sunday. A big win for the Steelers, beating the Ravens. So much to pick apart here. Chris Boswell may be your your MVP of this team, but you have players stepping up, making big plays. Payton Wilson, and let's start there. I know that's maybe a different way to start, but Mike, you wrote a story on Wilson where you talked about his Warriors mentality, and there's something I wanted to bring up. In that story, you talked about how he's willing to die on the field. And so he's got the heart, the makeup, the grit to be a great, and the play that he made on Sunday really exemplifies that.
Yeah, definitely. So he had that quote where he was talking about, "I'm willing to die on the field" before the season. And that really intrigued me. And so the point of the story was, let's get to the root of that and let's figure out, where does this mentality come from? Is it something ingrained in him from his parents, which is true because his dad was a, real tough guy, and he used to tell him, like, we don't play sports for fun. This isn't a game. You're here to be the best. And his brother told a great story about, he was at a baseball camp and his brother now pitches in the major leagues. And he was kind of joking around, messing around. So afterwards, every player got a hat, and he threw the hat in the trash. And he said, if you're not going to work hard, you don't get this hat. And it's just a little thing, but I think it sends a message. And then, Peyton dealt with double-digit injuries, and ultimately it reached a point where he thought, maybe football is not for me. Maybe I should just, be a special education teacher. He has a big heart for people like that and people in that situation. And his brother convinced him, like, look, if you have one more injury, it's going to be decided for you. So just give it everything you've got. And that's been his mentality. And I think that the interception is a perfect example of who Peyton Wilson is, because Justice Hill really caught the football. It was a reception by the running back, but Peyton didn't quit. He played through the whistle, and that's his personality. That's his playing style. That's what the Steelers are getting, is a guy that he's going to give it everything he has. He's going to play through the echo of the whistle.
I asked Casey about that play. Casey said he sold it too. And
He
you got to
did.
sell it. You got to sell it. Whether you think you have it or not, get up and start celebrating.
Yeah, and I think, that's one example of, this was a statement win by the defense to take a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry offense, number one in the league in virtually every stat, scoring, yards, rushing, red zone offense, and to hold them down like they did for most of the game made a statement. And it tells me it didn't take TJ Watt putting on a cape. It didn't take Minkah Fitzpatrick, pick six like we've seen so often. Who are the guys producing the turnovers? Brand new guys to this defense. Patrick Queen, Payton Wilson, like we mentioned, Nick Herbig in his second season. And to me, this is the difference between a good defense and a great defense. A good defense has star players, and they get theirs. A great defense has star players plus that supporting cast. And I think that game revealed that to me just as much as anything else.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Deshaun Elliott made some plays. Let me think, who else? I think didn't Lowry bat a pass?
Yeah, after the game, Tomlin was in the locker room screaming at Lowry, "Welcome to the rivalry! Welcome to the rivalry!" So,
hey, I've heard you do good Tomlins. Do Tomlin presenting Chris Boswell with the NFL MVP award.
Man, well, what he said afterwards was,
right.
We're happy for Boswell, but I'm sick of him winning these awards.
It exposes our warts, yeah.
Right, which is true. Which that's the other flip side to this, is the defense looked great, but the offense left something to be desired. I thought that this was going to be a game when Lamar Jackson was going to put up points, and we were going to see what's the difference in this offense from last year to this year. It didn't really come to fruition because of the 0 for 4 performance in the red zone. So, for me, when we're having these discussions right now, everyone's talking about, are the Steelers a Super Bowl contender? To me, it hinges a lot on how much you believe in Russell Wilson in this offense, because the defense with their performance, especially last week, showed they can be one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league. But do you think that the Steelers offense is closer to the last 3 games before this Ravens game, when they put up an average of nearly 32 points per game, multiple times went over that 400-yard mark? Or do you feel like maybe the league is starting to figure out Russell Wilson, and the pressure was getting to him, and they were failures in the red zone? To me, that determines whether this is going to be the playoff contender, Super Bowl contender team, or another team that fizzles early in the postseason.
I hate to say, have they figured out Russell Wilson when he dropped another one right in a receiver's shirt pocket, and the guy Calvin Austin dropped it, and everybody tries to rush the passer with their defensive end, and did you figure out Broderick Jones? I mean, you know, he couldn't block anybody, well, at least in the first quarter. So I don't know that you figure him out as much as other things, things that he did well were dropped. He didn't have the best game, but I don't think he had the worst game. And I don't know that you figure him out. I don't know that he's even trying to throw over the middle. A couple slants and Big Darnell, but I want to see more Freiermuth over the middle. I want to see Mike Williams. And, Ben Skoronek's going to take unnecessary, not abuse, but I was going to make a snide remark. How much more Ben Skoronek do you want to see? But I mean, how much more Van Jefferson do we want to see? Let's give Ben at least a target. I just want to throw Ben's name in the mud right now because it's keeping Mike Williams on the bench. And I don't understand that. You taught Williams one route last week. Why couldn't he have run that a few times?
No, I agree with you. And what I would like to see is, it irks me when they're in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends and just 1 wide receiver on the field, and that 1 wide receiver is Scotty Miller. That is a run-heavy formation, and so you need that person to be a great blocker. I'm not sure a guy who's 5'9" is that. And then there are going to be, once or twice out of every 10 times you're going to play action and take a deep shot. I'd love for that guy to be a 6'4" Mike Williams, and I think that's a natural evolution of this offense. And there's other instances too. And I wonder too, going back to his days with the Jets, Aaron Rodgers was critical of Mike Williams for not running the right route and not understanding the playbook. And I wonder if maybe that's part of it as well, is you wonder what his aptitude is for something like this, his ability to change teams and understand all of the terminology, the formations, the pre-snap motions and movement. There's a lot of that in Arthur Smith's offense. So maybe that's the biggest thing right now, is just they don't want to give him too much too soon. But I'm with you, Wex, that really, the faster they can get him up to speed, the better. You traded for this guy because you felt like there was an issue. You needed to upgrade at wide receiver. I'd like to see this guy given more opportunities to make impact plays.
Well, when he's out there, often you see people talking to him. It's like they're telling him what he has to do.
I agree. That's exactly what I saw too, Wax. That's a great point.
Yeah. So we know there were some struggles in the passing game, and this question's for both of you. And looking at the Steelers' rushing attack, which has been successful here as of late, seemed to me that they maybe gave up on it a little too soon or didn't run as much.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword there, because the Ravens did have the best run defense. And so if you were going to try to expose the Ravens defense, I think you were going to have to pass the football. So, I kind of like the aggressive mindset, but it also does show how important running the football is. And that even though they have a more competent quarterback than they have in years, they're still going to be a team that needs to rely on running the football and needs to set up those deep shots off of play action. And so, that's what I'd like to see them get back to in this game is, establish your identity, continue to show that you can be that ground and pound football team. And then when you need to, take the top off the defense with some of these deep threats.
I'm going to diss with Najee, and then I'm going to praise him. So, the first problem was Najee needs all 12 people blocking the right guy. Okay. No Walter Payton, none of that. You can't. Running backs aren't supposed to make their line look good. It's line has to make the running backs look good. Then you needed a quarterback, somebody who could set the blocking, somebody who knew what he was doing. Justin Fields, his criticism in Chicago was he couldn't read defenses. So Russell in there, read everything, call it right, get the right running play call. Now you need Russell in shotgun, as we had Matt Steele's column today. Najee doesn't run well out of the gun. So you need everything going Najee's way to get this guy his 100 yards. Now, to praise Najee, he runs hard, and that's what this is going to be a grit game coming up. So this is the game I want to see Najee carry 30 times. I want that effort. He doesn't get hurt. He's always got the same armor about him, the same demeanor, and he's going to bruise some hurt people. I understand Myles Garrett has 2 hurt feet. Their corners were dinged last week. They think they're going to play. So Cleveland's going to be hurting just like Pittsburgh's going to be hurting. This is an Najee game coming up.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Wex. And I also wonder how much they're going to use that Justin Fields package. I started to think
Oh
maybe
yeah.
it was just gamesmanship that they made it so public that they had this package and then we didn't see it. Now they said that some of that had to do with Justin was dealing with a hamstring injury before the bye. Now he's healthier. But, you look at the struggles in the red zone and then the mere presence of Justin Fields can also open up the rushing attack when you're struggling there. When you're running the read option, the way that they fit those gaps is different when you're leaving the guy unblocked. And so, I think that can be an element to the Steelers offense going forward, that when they are struggling to run the football and they need a little bit of a spark, even if it's in the middle of the field, maybe Justin can be that guy to provide the spark for you.
Yeah. And we talked about before we got on here, Mike, a stat to pay attention to, that the Browns have given up 46 sacks this year. So it could be a great night for TJ. And there's probably going to be extra incentive for him too. The whole defensive MVP, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. So a little side narrative that we'll all be watching.
Yeah, and TJ seems to rise to the occasion in these moments. You just wonder how much attention they're going to give to him and what the Steelers are going to do to counteract that. I think that TJ's been frustrated this year by, them sliding the line his way, chipping him, double teaming him. And so, we've seen intermittently the Steelers have switched sides and had TJ rush from the opposite side. That might be a way to free him up, or at least throw a curveball at that Browns offense. And we'll have to see how much they choose to do that in this game.
Do they want to continue to free up Nick Herbig though? These offensive lines. Wow.
It's true. Yeah, Herbig is impressive, because every time you think, man, this guy's undersized, can he really do it every down, or is he just, one-dimensional pass rusher? Then he goes and punches the ball free from Derrick Henry, who had something like 400 plus touches without a fumble. He just finds ways to make plays. And his brother was hilarious in the locker room, Nate Herbig. He was like, yeah, that's my 401k over there. He's like, I'm counting on him to set me up for retirement.
Oh, man. Awesome. Well,
yeah, well, sounds like Alex Highsmith will be back soon. And it doesn't look like Keanu Benton's hurt at all. I mean, he's not on a practice report. So they're rather healthy. And Cam and Isaac Seumalo are missing, but I'm not going to believe that. I think they're just getting ready. The old guys ready for the game. So, they put it all together. They muster up the grit for this, and they're 9-2 with 10 days off, man. And then maybe Alex Highsmith comes back, and it could be a full speed, man.
Yeah, which will be big against Joe Burrow. Getting to him is critical. I know a couple years ago, late season or maybe playoffs, they had 2 different game plans. One game plan for if they were going to face TJ, and one game plan if TJ was not going to play. As it turned out, TJ did not play, and they were able to attack deeper downfield. But teams are well aware of what TJ Watt can do and how he can wreck games. And in addition to all those double teams and chips that I mentioned, a big part of that is just let's get the football out quickly. So, if you're Joe Burrow back there and you're getting it out in 1.5 seconds every time, no chance for TJ to get home. So, even though TJ, even when he's not getting to the quarterback and having those game-wrecking moments that we're so familiar with, he still impacts the games in ways we don't see.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
go ahead. I'm just going to say Nick Herbig.
Yeah. You love yourself some Nick Herbig, Jim, and rightfully so.
Paying so much attention to TJ, and then Nick Herbig, I don't know that he's the player that Alex Highsmith is. I don't think he is, but man, he's quick. He's got some different characteristics about him.
Yes.
Yeah, he really does. He plays to his strengths. He knows what he's good at, and he's able to get to the quarterback, which is all that matters, really.
He's so cool in the locker room too. he doesn't seem like that guy at all. TJ seems like it. Like I went up to TJ in the locker room. I go, TJ, mob just come through here. He goes, yeah, but that's okay. What do you got? Come here. There's an aura, a presence about him. He's got his space. I respect him. Nick, hey Nick, Nick's like your buddy, right?
Yeah.
And then Nick talks and he's cool and Nick's a different kind of kid. I mean, he's cool.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have with as many edge rushers as the Steelers have right now who are being successful. But Mike, we want to be respectful of your time. Where can the listeners check out your work?
Yeah, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Mike DeFabo, and then check out all of my work in The Athletic, of course.
All right, we'll make sure
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just to say, we'll make sure we link that in the show notes so that you guys can give him a follow on X and check out The Athletic. Go ahead, Jim.
Mike, are you on Blue Sky yet?
Yeah, I just created an account. We'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be like Threads where everybody tried it for a week and then immediately went back, but I created my account nonetheless, like everybody else.
Yeah, I guess I will too. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jim, anything that you want to plug before we jump off?
My book, man. My book, coffee table book. People love it. I got one to Pompiani and one to Pursuit. It's a beautiful coffee table book. Great Christmas present. And you got Black Friday coming up. JimWexel.com.
And that'll
get
be
them autographed, get them inscribed. Yeah.
Yep, and that'll be linked in the show notes as well. And that's going to do it for episode number 132 of the Still City Insider podcast. We'll see you back here next week, hopefully discussing another Steelers victory. Gentlemen, have a great week.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thank you,
care,
guys. Talk to you soon.
Hey, guys.